All right, welcome back to the Wallace branch, and we are here watching the NP RS3, Alco RS3, backing out of a track with a caboose and grabbing some bulkhead flats. One of our tasks, long neglected on the route, is to load up bulkhead flats here in Saltese with pipes. And then the pipes are actually going to be going over to Missoula, so eastbound. And I think one of the reasons why I ignored this up until now is that I had the impression, mistaken, that the pipes were actually going to the smelter, and I kind of held that task until the end, mistakenly, evidently. Okay, I do actually need to see what I'm doing here in the driver control. Press F5 to make it look nice. Now, one of my regrets about this series, which I mentioned last time as well, is that I really wish that I could have done things a bit more prototypically, and I really wish actually that I could have done more cab view, and it could have done things in realistic mode instead of simple or easy mode. And I think the reason is, first of all, I'm not used to it, but also just the number and complexity of the tasks, the switching between the different drivers. So I think if I did another series, maybe I would try to do it in realistic mode and therefore cut down on some of the jumping between different tasks that has essentially distinguished my playing style up until now. Now, that large number of tasks, the thought processes behind switching out everything, to me that is a big part of the gaming aspect of this game. What makes it fun and interesting is you have to think through, okay, what task is next, and can I get all these things done? And it's very time consuming because it takes so much time to watch the trains go back and forth across the yard and do runarounds and everything. But that adds to the challenge because then, you don't know if you can get everything done and if you're going to beat out the clock on some of these different issues. So I like this style of managing the route, but it really doesn't lend itself to the realistic mode. And now that I've worked on those cabs, and of course you see very clearly that the physics of the locomotives is not that good on easy mode, I would like to give the other a try. And I have played a little bit of Derail Valley. I really enjoy Derail Valley as well. I enjoy this more. I think Trains is better for me because I want to create my own routes and I want to sort of design my own game around my routes, as I've mentioned, and that is what Trains is all about. But I appreciate the realism of the cab view and operations and engine physics that Derail Valley has, which this game, with all of its user-created assets, doesn't seem to have that right now. Maybe I'm just not using the right assets, or I'm not a good enough designer of my own assets. Well, undoubtedly that's true, but I would like to get into that side of this game in my next iteration, let's say. And I've always said that. I've always said, like, I'd like to try out more realistic mode because I'd like to learn about how to do that. I'd like to be more skilled, and I always say I would like to be more prototypical. And of course, I always say that I would not like to just do the bird's eye view either, like to get down on the ground level sometimes. But then I always find myself drifting back into my old habits. Because why? Because in a hurry, trying to get things done as rapidly as possible. And, if you played Derail Valley, or maybe if you've enjoyed doing cab view in this game, you know that you can't always see exactly whether you've passed the switch or not. It's not that... real life is not as convenient as having a bird's eye view of everything. So, yeah, there are trade-offs. Now, I believe that Salty's pipe can load 3 cars at once. We have only 4 here, so it doesn't matter whether it's 2 or 3. But I think it's 3 at once. And then we'll have 5 cars coming from De Borgia. So hopefully we'll be able to get this done in a short order. Saltese is another one of the small towns where there are some people hanging out at the depot, just watching trains pass. That girl is looking at the guy smoking and being annoyed with him, I think. Somebody who's talking on a cell phone? No, there are no cell phones. This is the 1970s. That's not happening. All right, I need to stop talking and focus a little bit, apparently. Honestly, even from this view, it looks like it could be 2 or 3, but I'm going to say most likely 2. It is indeed a quiet little town. Where I'm being jerked all over the place. Sorry about that. Gonna see if it will load 3. I don't think it will, but we'll see. All right, I said I was potentially going to take the steam engine NP number 50 with us and go to Mullen, but I've had a rethink on that. I don't think it's good to drive backwards in a steam engine. And this locomotive is really supposed to be more of like a switching locomotive for this yard specifically. Now, of course, I'm going to, as a substitute, take the other switch engine, the SW1200, and use that as a way of transferring 2 boxcars to Mullen. But I think that's a little bit more likely. Also, I think it's a good idea to turn the engine around, don't you? Usually I overshoot in situations like that, but this time I didn't. Try to get it exactly lined with that smokestack. Whoa. Hold on. Okay, a couple of those toots I did not do, so I'm mystified. Okay, navigating to Mullen NP Freight House. I don't think we need to do the horn again. Let's go back and check on our pipes. All right, here we are back in Saltese, and it looks like the 3 cars of pipes have loaded. So we're just going to back up. That should do it. All right, I'm going to leave the caboose here, and I'm going to go grab some bulkhead flats for taking back to Saltese. And I think this is going to help us because, well, we need those flat cars in Saltese. I ideally would like to switch the caboose on in the industry track, but I think the fact that there's a train kind of blocking it there right now might make that a little challenging. So I'm going to do it this way. And this is the auto horn that I have programmed, so I'm not actually planning to cross that street. It's okay. Yes, this industry is set up in this loop fashion, which can make things incredibly convenient sometimes, but often it doesn't help because we're not going the correct direction for this loop track to work. And this is one of those times anyway, I think. It doesn't feel like it, but I think we've serviced about half the industry tracks on the route in terms of the queues and loads that we could have picked up. Maybe less, maybe more like 1/3. But we probably visited almost all of the actual industries on the map, and we certainly visited all of the towns on the map. So I feel like we got very good coverage despite only doing 1/3 of the things that we could have been asked to do. And some things we did more than once. You know, we've come back to the Mullen area a couple times to handle the same freight depot. I put the steam engine engineer and steam engine fireman in there when I first started out making these models. And, I've been taking them out now. So taking them out so that you can see the real driver, like if you've got Tasha in there. It's better to actually see her than to see the same people. And also, by doing it this way, then you see that those two characters are in both locomotives, so both forward and leading and trailing. That's not good either. That was a rare line side camera. I do have some line side cameras on this route. All right, I'm going to check on the UP train to see whether it's reached it has indeed reached the smelter area, although it's not quite there. So it says idle. I don't know. So I think what we'll do is I'll order this train to couple together with the caboose, and then we'll go handle what's going on at Tasha's location. All right, here we are with Tasha Yar, who has reached exactly where I thought Tasha Yar would have reached. Didn't look so clear to me on the mini-map, though, but it looks good. And we are just going to have Tasha proceed up and drop that load of ore cars in the smelter. So I think we have to drive to the smelter high. Smelter ore top side, and then drive to the smelter ore far side. This are two track marks that I had been intending to set up for quite some time and not gotten around to it. Basically, because the speed limit is low in that area, then those ore cars should dump automatically when they pass through. Okay, I have to admit this looks a little bit ridiculously tight. And it's the way that I designed these switches. I should have stretched this out a little bit more. But let's just see if this locomotive can pass, because I think it's probably still going to be okay. It's not going to look good, and it's not going to be prototypical because of the design of the switch, not for any other reason. Yeah, it's really no problem. I mean, we were not in any danger of touching from in the game, and maybe it would have been okay in real life too. I don't know. Speed limits in this area seem to be all messed up, in my opinion. This is supposed to be sort of like the main line or something, but it's not being treated that way speed limit wise. And I'd have to say, Tasha Yar and the other set of GP9s has really booked up there. I mean, it's much faster than I expected. In a future playthrough, I would probably reduce the number of locomotives on the route. Definitely reduce the number of locomotives moving at any one time and just hanging out. Like maybe have a few in the yard undergoing servicing just to make it look nice, but having so many engineers available to work on the branch at once is probably not realistic, right? Yeah, by taking those ore cars, we took about half the train's weight off. All right, now we're taking these 5 cars up to the smelter for unloading, and then that task will be done. A little bit late there on the auto horn. It's difficult to check those industry tracks because you don't exactly know where they are. They blend in completely as designed. Okay, I'm very surprised about how that went down. Seems like that train did not unload automatically like I thought it would. It is my first time using that track that way, so maybe it's not autopilot not capable of getting so low. I don't know. That looks like it might do all 5, but we'll see. The speed limit should be more like 3 miles per hour here. And in my testing of the MI2, I think I did something like that. So I don't know why it's not working here or why I didn't do it correctly here. All right, while this is slowly processing, we're going to check on Saltese. All right, time to move these into the other tracks and get ready for the next 5 to come in. And while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to check on our Northern Pacific train that I put on autopilot. Seems to be coming, just right around the corner. It's hard to tell, once again. More than halfway here, I think. I'm just holding him here because I think that other train might be coming around the corner any moment, and I don't want to fight with it. Indeed, it's looking good. Of course, it doesn't tell you exactly how far away it is, but yeah, a couple minutes anyway. Now for a playthrough of the Wallace branch that has taken now 27 hours, a lot of the activity on the route, not the majority, but a lot of the activity on the route has involved the smelter. And it is nice to see the smelter is now done, at least with these ore deliveries. Those are all done. But in addition, with the pipes unloading, that part should be done as well. I think that that will work, but we'll see. Now, just so we can have a little bit of fun with the route, the NP local coming back from St. Regis, Montana, with a short string of boxcars is not the usual consist that we've been seeing on this route so far. 2 F units with a GP9 in the center. Now, did F units ever appear on the Wallace branch? You might think no, because GP9s would have been assigned almost continually just to handle the local on a regular basis. But in fact, it is true that there was at least one instance when F9s were brought onto the, well, at least some sort of F unit was brought onto the route for an excursion. I believe it was when the S-curve bridge was about to be removed. So this is sort of imitating that or paying a small homage to that. And we're just going to head this over the pass. We've got plenty of power this time, no need for helpers. So yeah, we're going to go to Saltese, Maine. And at Saltese, we're going to pick up 5 more boxcars. And then these boxcars filled with hardware will be delivered to the Morning Mine. Meanwhile, this train is just passing Taft, Montana, where there's a historical marker back there. I'm not going to read this one out. I'm not sure if it's on the DLS or anything, but yeah, this is the real historical marker celebrating the engineering of the Mullen Road. And we're just arriving in Saltese. Go around this mountain. This is where the interstate highway passes now.
Axles 3, 2, train speed 2, 2, MPH detector out.
Not quite far enough. All right, I think actually what we're going to do is we're going to pick up these 4 cars first, and we're going to tool over the pass and go right on down to Wallace and Silverton. This way we'll be leaving 1 caboose behind here at Saltese for this train to leave the map once these cars are all filled up. And now we can direct you to Lookout Pass. And Wallace Track 1. And as for the other NP local, the special, this one I'm just going to program also to go to to go to Lookout. and then to Mullen, Maine. And then I think we can go to morning lead. Then we can navigate to morning mine hardware is the first thing that comes up. That's good. And it'll be a while before we arrive, but I have a feeling that we'll be there before you know it. All right, Tasha Yar has coupled up, so I think the first thing to do, of course, is to have her jump off that train. And we're going to add in Waza. And we're going to add Waza to this train, and then we're going to tell Waza to please drive to the plumber portal. All downhill from here, and no additional switching tasks to worry about. Okay, that marks the completion of the Wallace pipe task, because that one pipe car is actually going off the map. And looking over here at the smelter, it looks like all the pipe cars have unloaded except for one. That's what I think anyway. All right, now we can mark this task as done because we've completed that delivery. Now, as usual with this track mark here in Mullen, the engine just reaches the platform and then we don't actually get the boxcars loaded. So I'm going to pull these boxcars up. Platform is pretty long, maybe one of them loaded, I'm not sure. But we're going to pull them right to the middle and then they'll definitely be loaded. And these are going to have to leave the map before this task can be marked as complete. But that's what the local trains are for. All right, leaving at the end of this penultimate episode, we're watching our second MP local, the special, coming into just leaving Wiley's and heading up towards Saltese and then heading up to Lookout Pass. And basically this train, the other train with boxcars, the 4 boxcars, those are the only 2 trains we're going to be working in the next episode, and it is undoubtedly true that we are going to finish with the next episode. There's just no way around it. Now, as to how many hours that will take, it will take 1 hour screen time at most. However, it will not take, it will probably take more than that because we're not going to be following the trains as they make their way over the pass or anything like that. So yeah, when you see this train next, we might be in Mullen. And when you see the other train next, we might be in Wallace for that train. And then we'll be working Silverton, we'll be working the morning mine, we'll be picking up some boxcars in Mullen, and we'll be heading back off the map. That's all we have left. UP side is done. So I hope you enjoyed this series, and we'll be glad to see you again next time. And I'd love to hear your suggestions for how to do a future series better. I will be taking a break for a while from trains, from making videos. Maybe I'll make some tutorial videos, but I'm really going to be focusing on content and making sure I release things in a timely fashion after this. So yeah, I don't know when I'll resume, but if I do resume or when I do resume, I'd be very willing to hear some suggestions about how to do better. So thanks for joining. See you next time on the Wallace Branch.